Massive weekend of MMA. We've just done videos for the Cage Warriors cards, the UFC. We're going to do the PFL now. Maybe we'll have a look at Octagon as well, see what fights are on that. We're just going to go through this really quick. So we've got the first fight, Rafael Xavier versus Carl Albertson. Mixed records for both of them, but both been in there with some good level competition now. Rafael's coming off a split decision loss to Simeon Powell, and Carl Albertson's coming off a KO loss to Simeon Powell. I mean, that's about where I'm going to draw the line with this fight. I feel like the typology predictions are mixed bag. You got 49% going for Albertson, 51% going for Xavier, so it's a pretty even fight, isn't it? On paper and on the odds and in the predictions as well. Going off the last fight though, maybe you lean with Rafael Xavier. Other than that, that's all I've got for that one. Next fight, you got Rodrigo Nascimento versus Oleg Popov. Oleg Popov, 20-2, good record, coming off a win in his last fight over Carl Williams. That's a split decision though, and I don't think Carl Williams is anything special. Lost before that to some Russian guy by triangle. Win over Linton Vassell and some other guys who we probably don't know the names of. Rodrigo Nascimento, former UFC fighter, coming off a split decision win over Abraham Babli, and then a loss before that against Romanov, who's a decent fighter. We're going to come on to him soon. And a KO loss to Derek Lewis. Both them fights were in the UFC. UFC caliber guys, so although Popov's got his work cut out for him here, I would probably slightly side with Nascimento just off the experience, and he's probably been in there with a tougher competition. And Popov coming off a split decision loss to someone who's probably not as good as Rodrigo Nascimento, so that's where I stand with that fight. Next fight, we're going to skip it. Biagio Ali Walsh versus Ronnie Gibbs. Not worth looking into. So we'll move on to the next fight. Now, this is one I can't believe what I've just seen. So we've got Valentin Moldavsky. I guess he's one of Fedor's guys, because I seen him on a picture before and Fedor was in the background. Against Alexander Romanov. For some reason, Romanov is the underdog in this fight on the odds. I really highly rate Romanov. I couldn't believe it when the UFC cut him. I think his grappling is really good, and it's not like he gasses either. He sets a high pace and he keeps it up. Maybe he slows down a little bit, but he wouldn't. For the pace he sets, it's impressive for a big guy like he is. And he's beat some good guys. Honestly, I can't believe the UFC cut him, to be honest. Maybe they're just not a fan of his style, or there's other things going on behind the scenes. But I think he's just better than Valentin. Valentin's coming off 2 losses as well to Linton Vassell, and I think Romanov would wipe the floor with Linton Vassell, to be honest. So I can't believe he's the underdog. Topology are thinking the same thing as me, I guess, and they're going there. So we're definitely going to be putting that fight on. That might be one of my betting bets of the week. Them are the ones that always let you down, innit? Though the ones what you're super confident in. But I've always thought Romanov's good. I can't believe it when the UFC cut him. So we'll leave it at that. Next fight, Shoeface Antonio Carlo Jr. versus Simeon Powell. Simeon Powell, really impressive finish in his last fight against Albertson. A split decision before that against Xavier. Them two guys are fighting each other, which is funny, isn't it? And he's coming up against Carlos Jr. Carlos Jr., obviously, former UFC fighter, been in there with a lot of big names, and he's only ever been finished by KO once, and that was like ground and pound. And I don't see Simeon Powell taking Antonio Carlos down. He's going to try to keep it standing, isn't he? And it's a question if Carlos Jr. can get his grappling going and control Simeon Powell for long enough in this fight, because he's not going to want to strike with him. But even then, I feel like he's been in there with guys who have got just as good striking as Simeon Powell. So, big experience advantage for Carlos Jr. And I just feel like, yeah, he's an underdog in this fight, and it might be worth giving him putting him on and having a little pump with him, because I think Simeon Powell's really good, and he could catch him and knock him out and probably get another highlight reel finish if that's the case. But I just feel like Carlos Jr.'s got the experience to get hold of him and probably control him for long enough parts of the rounds, and maybe even get a submission. So I'm going to go against the grain on that one, and I'm going to say Antonio Carlos Jr. probably gets the win. Well, not probably, but potentially gets the win. Next fight, Dalton Roster versus Aaron Jeffrey. This is a rematch. Jeffrey beat Dalton Roster a couple of years ago by decision. I've not watched that fight back. Yeah, I'm just being upfront with you now, guys. I don't do a lot of tape for most of these fights. I just go off the fights because I watch a lot of these fights anyway. So I'll just go off memory and what I've seen. Sometimes, occasionally, I'll watch a bit of tape if I'm more intrigued. But yeah, so a rematch. Jeffrey got the win in the last fight, and he's only had a couple of fights since then, Dalton Roster. So it's not like you can. Maybe he's made improvements in the gym. 2 years is a long time to make improvements, but he's only had 2 fights in that time. So what's he changed? Yeah, obviously he must feel confident because he's accepted the fight. I don't know if this is in a backup in the tournament or if it's the main fight, but yeah, he must have seen something to accept the fight where he thinks he can get it back. So you got to side with him with confidence there, but he's already been beat, hasn't he? So the Topology predictions are going Roster pretty heavily. Yeah, he looks impressive in his last fight. He got that nice submission win over Sadibou, but you know, Aaron Jeffrey got his own impressive win. It's a split decision, but against a really good guy in Murad Ramazanov. So what's happened? What's changed in this fight? I'll probably leave it off. The odds are suggesting Dalton Roster's the favourite as well. So you could have a little look at putting Aaron Jeffrey on there, though. I mean, he's already beat him, so I'm saying so a lot, but yeah, I'm not sure if I'll put it on. Tricky one to predict that. Next fight, Sergio Pettis versus Rafion Stotts. Stotts, he's a really good fighter. He's only lost twice. One of those was against Patchy Mix, and the other was against... Who was it against now? I know it's in my head. Let's just have a look really quick. Patchy Mix and Marab, that's who it was. And that was really early on in his career. Good fighter, Stotts. I remember watching his fights against Danny Sabatello, and I like Danny Sabatello. I think he's good. And Stotts got a split decision in the first one, but got a pretty convincing decision in the second one. Yeah, I like Stotts in this fight. Sergio Pettis coming off 2 losses as well. Not fought since 2024. Against good guys, obviously, still. But he's one of those Sergio Pettis. Obviously, he's really good. What does my opinion matter? But I just never... I don't know. I've never thought, where's he going? I feel like his level is just there, and yeah. He had a bit of a resurgence after he left the UFC, but I never thought he's a world beater or anything like that. Never seen massive progressions in him. So yeah, I feel like Rafion Stott's ceiling's still a little bit higher. He's 36. Well, nah, he's 36 in him, man. I thought he was younger than that. But yeah, I still think Stotts gets the win here anyway, regardless. Next fight, Phil Davis versus Sullivan Cauley. I was impressed with his last fight, Phil Davis, because I thought, you know what, after 2 years out, he's 40 years old now, maybe he's lost a step, and he just went out there and he looked really good, didn't he, against Rob Wilkinson. I was impressed. He's still got it. He's still got the athleticism. He's still got the grappling. And even though he's 40 years old, he's got a lot of experience, and his body's not failing him yet. Sullivan Cauley coming in a impressive win in his own right as well, getting the finish in his last fight, and a good submission win before that. But this is a massive step up in competition for him against Phil Davis. So unless he can pull something out of the bag, and yeah, I feel like Phil Davis gets this one done, to be honest. Next fight, Fabian Edwards versus Josh Silveira. Massive favourite, Fabian Edwards. I think he probably gets the win here, but we're not looking to put it on at those odds because Silveira could always come in with an upset win. So yeah, look good. What a finish that was in Fabian's last fight, yeah, against Impa Kasanganay. And Silveira's coming off a couple of losses to Impa Kasanganay, and then a loss to Rob Wilkinson as well by split decision. So I think Edwards should get this done, but the odds are too wide to even entertain putting it on. Let's have a little look now. I think I've already put some on here who I'm looking at picking. So Antonio Carlos Jr. is the underdog. I think we might put that on to get some good returns, because if we don't have that on, we're only looking at a 40 quid return off the other fights. Risky fight. I feel like this is the riskiest one on there, but yeah, we'll put it on anyway. And then we'll put Phil Davis on to get the win, and Rafion Stotts to get the win over Pettis, and then Romanov to get the win. I can't believe Romanov's the underdog. Maybe they see something I don't, and everyone else on Tapology is siding with him. The other fights, oh yeah, we could have a look at putting Jeffrey on as an underdog, and that will put our returns up massively to 220, but that is a risky one. It's just adding more risk to it, isn't it? Then it's 5 fights will have to come in as well. So we'll probably put that on. Yeah, a lot of fights on. Watch my other videos as well if you've not watched them. Subscribe, like, and I'll see you in the next video. Maybe I'll do one for Octagon, but I'll have a look at the fights first. See you later.